This segment I'm excited about, and my team here, I'll introduce them in a minute, but Terry and I have been talking to the National Volunteer Advisory Council for a while about goals, about things that we've been wanting to do for the past couple of years. And I'll talk about the transformation of this council. It used to be a committee, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but let me just talk about a couple of things that I see from my perspective, maybe the perspective of somebody being around ICAR for lots of years. So, as I look at ICAR, committees have really always been at the heart of our growth, our success, and our longevity. We have more than 260 local committees. We have 1,600 plus volunteers and more than 400 instructors. And they're pretty important to us for bringing relevant and timely collision repair information to local markets. Most of you, we recognize, have full-time jobs, you have families, yet you still share your time and passion to help ICAR promote technical training for the collision repair industry. Without your efforts and commitment to improving the quality and safety of collision repairs for the ultimate benefit of the consumer, ICAR really wouldn't be the industry-leading resource it is today. As I look at this group, and as we talk about things, even through the Q&A, it was a shorter Q&A, but I see the quality of people that we have in our volunteer, instructor, and assessor group. And I really believe that you elevate the industry image and professionalism, the image of that in the industry. And for all of these contributions that you give ICAR and that you represent for ICAR, I just want to thank you for that. And I don't think we do that enough. So really, thank you. In this session, we're going to provide you with details about our plan to transition committees from the current role, and AJ talked about this morning, the current role of scheduling classes as we have things like Schedulo and our new technology coming out, and a lot of that function will be done automatically. It's actually pretty exciting. So, like I said, we've been kind of talking around this for a while. We're going to review committee goals that were drafted with significant input, and maybe almost complete input, from the National Volunteer Advisory Council. And that's pretty exciting. There was a time when Jerry Poirier used to rail us for getting committee goals out in June. So I'm happy to say that it's not June, it is March, but this was, we really wanted to get the committee goals for 2019 out at this conference, and that's what we're going to do. So on stage with me is another I-team, and I'm happy to see Terry Teasel, and Terry is in his new role. Just last week we promoted Terry to the position of Director of Field Sales, so it's great to have Terry with us, and Terry kind of oversees this council. We have Becky Taylor from Laird Noller Collision Center right here, Kenny Hall from State Farm Insurance Company, and Lisa Ferguson from Caliber Collision. I will say that they volunteered for this assignment, and I didn't have to twist any arms. So they are very passionate about what we do, what the committees do, and I'm sure that's going to come out. What I'd like to do is, again, have the national, our NVAC members, National Volunteer Advisory Council members, hopefully they're still in the room. Maybe those two people I announced earlier weren't on the NVAC. But if you're in here, would you please stand up again? Yes. Thank you for what you do for NVAC. And during this discussion, I would invite those people to come up to the microphone. Over the last 3 or 4 or 5 conference calls we've had, the passion, the old committee passion, really came out in these folks. If any of you feel strongly about really conveying that passion again in this setting, love to hear you. Okay, so let me talk about the transformation of, let's say transformation to the National Field Advisory Council. So we used to have the NFAC was a committee that reported to the board. And back in, let's just say in 2017, 2018, we looked at the function of that NFAC as they reported to the board. The staff really didn't have a lot of interaction with the NFAC. It reported up to the board. They met with the board and reported to the board 4 times a year, and they were a working committee. They actually did work. They worked on projects. They actually did a really good job. The problem with that was that we were a little bit disconnected. Staff was a little bit disconnected, and sometimes what they worked on were the same things that we were working on. And because they were working as a committee, not as full-time work, and we were working as having full-time work on some of those issues, we were able to really accelerate those projects. And the communication between the two probably wasn't what it needed to be. And I know that committee was a little bit frustrated because when they reported to us, we said, well, we're involved in that too. We have that going on. So in 2018, we looked at the NFAC and said, you know what, it's probably time to transition that committee to staff. And that's what we did. We brought the National Field Advisory Committee to staff, where it became the National Volunteer and Instructor Council. All right, so the NFAC becomes the National Volunteer Instructor Council. And last year, at the end of last year, with the formation of our delivery department, we realized, with the help of some of the members on the committee or on the council, that we had instructors who were employees, on phone calls with volunteers that were trying to set the process and policy for ICAR employees. So Lori Barrington and I had a conversation, and we said, this really is something that shouldn't happen. We should be doing something differently with that instructor group. So Lori took the instructor group. They report up through her and address all the concerns that they have through the delivery team and Lori's group. So that happened. So that created the National Volunteer Only Advisory Council. And that's where we are today. So with that, we'd like to talk about who's on that council so that you guys understand. So I'll throw that over to Terry.
So as Nick alluded to, in our transition, this particular council becomes very important to us. They are the anchor as we move forward and as we collaborate and as we have communications as to where we are, where we're going, and ultimately where we need to be. So as you look at this list, these are the members that are currently comprised of our National Volunteer Advisory Council. We got Wayne Griffin from Caliber, Becky Taylor on the stage joining us from Laird Noller Collision, Mr. Ed Stakay, who is a liaison of sorts, if you will, between our volunteer group here and the instructor group. Melissa Dunn from, I'm sorry, I can't see that, but
it's a Classic Collision.
Classic Collision. Yep. Then we have Ken Martin from Auto Nation. Thank you. Mr. Jay Wolford from State Farm. Kenny Hall joining us on the stage from State Farm as well. Mr. Todd Gillette from Gillette's Collision Center. Tobias Padilla from Hertz. Dave Kroll, Debbie Gates from MetLife. Wayne Krause from Mitchell. Erica Gibbs. Shay DeMatzis. Leo Mackey from the Michigan Appraisal Company. John Gustafson from Gustafson Brothers Collision, and to my left, Lisa Ferguson from Caliber Collision. So these folks are extremely instrumental and have been up to this point and will continue to do so as we move forward with the committee transition plan, and there'll be more to come, and these individuals will certainly be a big part as we move forward into our future state. So John last night kind of framed this slide up, and we really can't add much more than what he actually said. So what I really want you to do is take a look at this and grasp the understanding based upon everything that has been outlined here last night with John kicking it off and throughout today with where we're at, where we're going, and what the future for ICAR looks like. It's extremely important that we understand certainly what our true north is. Ultimately, that complete, safe, and quality repairs that we really need to obviously be concerned about. This is our business, right? We go out and instruct the shops and the technicians to do these particular repairs in that fashion. But again, it's really important to know that this is truly our true north, and that this really gives us our direction as to where we are and where we're going. Additionally, the ICAR vision, very, very important. Again, John alluded to it last evening. You know, obviously, as we had just a great presentation prior to this, you can take some of that conversation and some of the input from that conversation, and you probably at this point in time can read our ICAR vision and maybe have a little bit different feeling about that now. The ICAR vision is that every, being a key word, person in the collision repair industry has the information, knowledge, and skills required to perform, again, our true north stance, complete, safe, and quality repairs for the ultimate benefit of the consumer. Again, I'd like for you to really digest that and understand what actually our vision is and how our particular vision needs to be with you every day when you're out on that shop or in our meetings, really being cognizant of that and really have that imprinted in your mind. And then the ICAR mission, again, something else that we really need to have imprinted and certainly understand, that is to deliver increasingly accessible, on-demand, and the key word, relevant education, knowledge, services, and solution for the collision repair inter-industry. Again, you take those two slides and you really look at those and you digest them as to what they're actually saying. And really, what is that meaning? They should have significant meaning for all of us that are participating here this weekend.
So it was important for us to really take a look at the vision and the mission statement and then compare it to our 5-year strategy. So when we had the NVAC on our conference calls, we started saying we would like to have you guys help us craft or draft the 2019 committee goals. So we said, here's the vision, here's the mission, here's our strategy for the next 5 years. So the combination of the three kind of dictates what we were involved in. And the things we specifically focused on are the things that are highlighted here. So as far as ICAR goals, on the left-hand side there, the goals for growing the ICAR organization, getting to 18,000 shops, getting that next 10,000 that we've been talking about for the past couple of years. At the bottom of that goal section, defining and deliver solutions to help the industry manage the talent crisis. We've got, Terry's staff is 6, but we have 1,600 committee members that can actually go out there and represent ICAR out in our markets. Under the key focus areas, back to the schools. So school capability, student onboarding solutions for shops. So working with the schools to prepare students to actually come into the industry. And that's what we're talking about as far as helping the industry solve that talent crisis. And then we talk about top initiatives. Absolutely, we've been talking about it all day. PDP evolution, including really getting more shops to gold class, getting individual technicians to platinum. Our delivery model, working to make sure national schedules happen with courses happening at fixed training sites. And then the last shaded area of the right-hand side there, technician talent gap programs and continuing the evolution of the committee role. So pretty important stuff. So as we looked at the vision, the mission, the 5-year strategy, specifically these areas, we challenged the NVAC to help us come up with committee goals for 2019 that make sense for us as we start this transition to committee work and volunteer work. So with that, what we like to do is kind of roll out those committee goals for 2019 and talk to them relative to the 5-year strategy, our vision, and our mission. So first, I believe Becky is up to talk about this.
As we talked about earlier this morning, Road to Gold is now gone, but that doesn't mean that we still don't need to go out and get shops to have the growth. ICAR has set a goal for 1,521 additional shops to train that have not trained in the last 18 months. So they want the committee now to go out and talk to those the shops that aren't training and get 6 legitimate shops that are not training and report those 6 legitimate shops to your business development manager. And then from there, right, Terry, ICAR is going to step in at that point in time and contact the shops and try to get them on board to start training. That form is with the business development managers, right?
Correct. Yeah, so just to kind of support what Becky said here, the intent for this is exactly what it says. It is a referral. And you get credit for the referrals. It's not that there aren't any parameters set around whether you do or do not get credit. As Becky outlined, these are shops that haven't trained with ICAR in the last 18 months. What we would do is ask you to have a conversation with them. You'll have a form as a committee member to fill out and send to your business development principal. That form is simply going to be who you contacted, what committee you're from, who was the contact and what the shop's name was, as well as just a little bit of a synopsis or notes, and you send it on to your business development principal. At that particular point in time, the business development principal will then take that and will work with our internal teams to make contact with those shops and follow up on your conversation. So with that, it's critical to understand that when you do submit that form, please be as specific as you can relative to what that conversation was and the interest of that particular shop. But again, understand the key components here are we're asking for 6 referrals. Becky?
Yeah, and we want to, sorry, Nick.
No, go ahead, Becky.
These need to be in by September 30th, so that way ICAR has enough time to get back with those shops and check in on those referrals. Because we want to get as many shops as we can on. The more people we have trained, the better the whole industry is.
Yeah, it absolutely fits our vision for the organization. So the last time we did this, at least to this degree, we set a goal, if you guys remember, 2016, for 1,885 new shops. At the end of the year, we had 3,009. So we're thinking that this group could do a pretty good job for us there. So with that, let's move on to the second goal.
Second goal is the in-shop knowledge assessment. Well, we're talking to those shops that haven't trained. We need to talk to them also about in-shop knowledge assessment, how they can bump it up and get there faster. Hopefully, we can get 3 shops to do the assessment in 2019 for each committee. We would like to have that information. Again, you will get with your BDC or your business development manager and fill out a form, and everybody will get taken care of through ICAR. But they want that in no later than November 30th, so that way they've got time to get back with everybody and get it going.
Good. Our next goal.
So we're asking that every committee has at least one person that does commit to being on a school board of some type. I know that there's a lot of restrictions due to the different counties. Some you're asked to be invited on, some you can just actually join. But we need to require at least one person to be active on a committee, or you can have multiple people on a committee or be on multiple committees yourself. It's going to be the same thing. There's going to be a form to fill out. Do it to the best of your ability. Put names, phone numbers, extensions, and submit it to your regional BDP.
You know, the interesting thing about this one is when we talked about it, you know, I really thought this was a lot to ask of a committee. And as we had conversation with the NVAC, it was pretty apparent that many of the members of the NVAC sit on multiple school boards. It's very interesting. So we put it in there as a requirement. Here's our next one.
Okay. So each committee member on the roster has to take either a live, online, or a virtual class. And that's going to be required. Hopefully, we haven't set a deadline for it, but same thing, try to be cognizant of the end of the year that they want to be able to collect the data and be able to give you credit for it. The committee officers, anybody that's in those 4 slots, they have to do one ICAR video and do a quick survey on it. There's only 9 videos. I suggest you do multiple ones. They're kind of cool. There's bloopers at the end. They're pretty neat. They're pretty short. And it's also something that you can talk to your other people about.
So let me jump in real quick here on number 4, just in case it might bring up some questions. So again, as Lisa outlined, we're asking you to take one class, either live, online, or virtual. How do you do that? Right? So what we're doing right now is we're in the final stages of developing a promo scenario where you would get a promo code. You'll reach out to your business development principal and tell them, hey, I would like to take a live, online, or virtual class. No problem. He will give you a promo code. You'll be able to utilize that, and you'll be able to take that class. I will tell you at this point in time, if we have somebody that wants to take an additional class or classes, I have no problem with that. Again, work with your business development principal, and he'll certainly get you taken care of there.
I would say one more comment I have here. When we were talking about this goal, a comment was made respectfully that, you know, if you're sitting there on the committee and you're an officer, time to put your money where your mouth is. Right, Lisa?
That was me.
We had quite the conversation about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Debbie. Up. Can you guys get the mic here set?
I have a question about this goal, just in case somebody else has this question. I myself have already completed my annual training for this year for my platinum. So there might be other people out there that have already completed their training. Can they use that training towards this goal, or do we have to get a promo code and take another class?
No, if you've taken the training. You know, the goal here is to get those folks on the committee, some exposure to the courses so they can talk intelligently about ICAR training and about the courses. So that's fine, Debbie. If you're already taking it, yeah.
No, I just thought maybe somebody else might have that question.
Yeah, it's a good question. Good statement.
Yep.
Okay.
Goal number 5. ICAR's requesting that each committee identify at least one CTE school in their market that doesn't have the PDP Education Edition currently. And there's forms and things that will be developed for that as well. I think this is a big one for ICAR's future. I think Nick and I were talking yesterday, and I think he had brought up the number. We've identified about 70% of these schools, so there's 30% still out there. And I just feel personally that if we find that additional 30%, those students can go out into the workforce and maybe bring that 69 to 65%, various numbers that I've heard. Those kids experiencing ICAR, they can take that out into the world, and I think maybe some of those kids will end up in some of those facilities, and then they can bring ICAR in that way. So I think this one can be a really big one for ICAR.
So we want to spend some time with those schools and really get to those and bring the education edition to those schools that don't have it. To that end, last week, I'll make this announcement now, to that end, we announced that Bill Stage was going to come back to the education industry segment. So for all you educators in the room, Bill is our guy again, and we look forward to what he does in that role. He has just deep roots in it, and it just made sense to bring Bill back. So.
Have a question.
Ken Martin.
Hi guys, yeah, Ken Martin, Collision Director, AutoNation Collision Center, and I'm also an MVAC member. And we do a lot of talking around the committees and their role. In fact, you just spoke about it with the advisory committees in the schools. Can we talk a little bit about how we plan to support the committee members, especially the ones that are struggling a little, maybe using the ones that have strengths, and they can lean on us with any weaknesses they might have, and help them strengthen their core so that they might better their environment in their committee field.
I'll take that one.
Go ahead, Becky.
I'd like to say to anybody out there, there's no committee that's like another committee. What may work for one committee may not necessarily work for another committee. But there's a wealth of knowledge and trial and error and failure through our council. And anybody can call us at any time if they want to. They can email us. I speak for everybody, I think, don't I?
Yes.
Yeah.
To ask questions. Like I said, we don't have all the answers, but we've tried a lot of things, and maybe
Right.
we can help you.
I think we need to reach out to our committees as a council and challenge them and actually kind of invite them to speak with us. And then
That would be
maybe,
great.
yeah, and have them expose any needs they have.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
We've also developed a lot of collateral materials for committees, and I'm not sure how much the committees take us up on this. I know that we'll call them regional managers, I know that they had garage fulls of that material, and we've kind of turned over the committee manager group, actually, so I'm not sure how much they have of that. But we do have a lot of that information that's out there, and to your point, Ken, I think we talked about it one of our calls. We just need to do a better job of getting that out there,
Right.
and letting you know exactly what we have.
I'm up to it. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
No, and I agree with you. I feel that in our committee area, I sit on 6 advisory boards, and I challenge everyone out there in the audience to, if you're not on at least one advisory board now, look around your market, look around your area. All those schools, they open arms invite us in, to kind of, help them, keep them up with the industry, keep them up with ICAR and things like that. So they're yearning for your contact. Most of them are. So I would challenge you to go with that.
I talked about you folks elevating, the perception of ICAR out there. I mean, there's Kenny sits on 6 boards representing ICAR. It's pretty impressive. Okay.
Number 6, complete one fundraising event. This one's kind of near and dear to my heart. One way you can do that is a golf outing. Our Columbus committee has been doing a golf outing since 2001. We've worked with CREF for a long time. And then that's money-wise. And in addition to this, too, that can be like tool or equipment donations. A lot of schools are really needing that. So, one year we did, in addition to our golf outing, we did a car show and a cruise in. So there's multiple ways that you can get out, and with the golf outing, the cruise ins, car shows, kind of brings public awareness to ICAR too. We use a lot of ICAR banners and really just try to promote ICAR as much as we can in those.
This goal is really tied to our relationship with the Collision Repair Education Foundation. Clark and Brandon and that whole team is trying to bring more equipment and tools, as much as funding, to those schools. And we see the need as well. Our fixed training sites don't have the tools and equipment we would like them to have. So this is a pretty high priority for us. And we will, and Bill will be working with Clark and his team to really make a difference here.
Goal number 7. This one is really, I really love this goal. For years, I've heard, and I've even said, somehow we've got to get to the public. We've got to get to the public and educate the public about ICAR, because most people don't know what ICAR is. So for this goal, we're asking each committee to have some kind of public-facing event, whether it be doing a career night at a high school or a junior high, maybe doing a parade, maybe, there's all kinds of things you could do. I'm from Kansas, so we have a county fair. Maybe it's get in touch with the fire department and a salvage yard and have them bring out a vehicle and, hand out flyers and talk to people there. We had a group of people, a group of men actually from a church that called the dealership wanting to know about safety. And so we had them come into the dealership and we talked to them about, well, the salespeople did, about all the safety features that are on the vehicle. And then when they were done, the service manager talked about how to take care of the vehicle. And then I talked about what happens when it's in a collision. And a lot of people had no idea that, that you needed to have somebody that was trained, that was going to put out that best quality repair and make sure that they were safe. So there's several ways to get to it. Recycle Rides is another program. And I'm sure that there's more that you guys have done also, but that's that goal.
So a couple of the key components here that I want to draw your attention to is the word promote, and that's ideally what we're looking for, right? Obviously a gold class is our mantra. That's our conversation. That's ultimately what we want these shops to move to. We're asking for you to help and promote the support of those particular gold class shops in your area. Again, from the customer-facing perspective, a majority of our individuals out there, the general public, don't know what ICAR is, don't know what a gold class shop is, don't know a lot of what we speak of freely. It's easy for us. It's our everyday conversation. But to the general public, not necessarily. So we're asking for an event, that public-facing event, to promote those two particular items, and that being the shop and also the public awareness of ICAR. And as Becky alluded to, there's several different opportunities that you can do or that you can complete to get that done.
And number 8 is submit your committee roster, and we want to have that done by March 15th. The reason for this is the business development partners need to know, or whoever they are now, need to know what people are on the committee, so that way they know what classes everybody needs to take and everything else.
So I know that we give
are.
additional time usually for submitting that committee roster. We're going to blame this one on AJ because our systems kind of go down after, and you guys know it, April 1st, we kind of switch over systems. So we're going to lose the systems for committee portal at that time. So we want to get your rosters in as soon as we can get them in, so we know who's on the committee, so we know who we're working with. So that one is as simple as that. Question?
Yeah, I wanted to make a comment. I'm Greg Brink. Whoa, a little too close.
Greg.
I'm Greg Brink. I'm from Kishwaukee College, and this was on the last one there. One of the biggest challenges that I face at the community college is getting enough students in the program. So by reaching out to even younger students and getting them to know our career ahead of time, I think is going to help. And I think that's an area that I know some of the teachers I've talked to, we really could need help with is getting more students in and letting kids know what a great career this is. A lot of them don't get to know that anymore because they've eliminated some of these programs at the high school level. So by the time they get to college, they don't even know that a career like this exists. So if we can do more of what you're talking about in here, number 7, I think it may help more schools to stay open.
And
Thank you.
also, on that same note, if you're doing like a high school one, the high school parents are probably going to be there.
Yeah.
You know, because they're going to want to know what the child wants to do, how much is it going to cost, everything else. So again, even though you might be pulling a student in to the industry, you're educating the parent. The kid may not care, you know, about ICAR right now, but the parent's going to be real interested in it. So again, you've done 2 things. Hopefully you've brought a child in, and hopefully you've educated a parent on what quality repairs are.
It's all about making that parent okay with the fact that collision repair is a good place to be. And if you look at the sides of these screens here, you know, we have sustaining partners that also have really some pretty lofty goals for helping solve this technician crisis. So we would like to use them. So if you want to use an OE and have OE show up at a career night, something like that, we're in for that. So we'll work with you, and Bill will be working pretty closely with the NVAC. Yeah, Erica, last one. We're running over time.
Okay. Sorry about that. Hi. So I have 2 real quick. So would you please speak to, and you started doing that right now, how do we support more of the students when they're no longer considered students? So let's say they did come out, they graduated, and then they're in the collision center industry, and then they move to a different collision center, and they're still looking for our support in ICAR to help them do that. And number 2, you guys, was the school information for the schools that are not participating. Would that information be available to us as committee members so that we can follow up and help support that a little bit better?
Yeah. So from my perspective, the first one is a huge question, not a small one. I think most of the industry is working on that, and there are initiatives that are happening. And Erica, we could talk more about that one. And I think we've talked a little bit about some of that on our calls. The second one, as far as the information, I do believe that we are very risk averse with information we share. And maybe we talked about that. I talked to a couple of you out here today about that and what we share and what we don't share, and what we possibly could share. So I've got that one. I've had that one for a few weeks now. Give me some time on that, and we'll talk about that. Okay. Because I think there are more than just a few of you folks out there looking for information, looking for shops that might not be gold class, that haven't trained in a while, that we've been talking about for years. So thanks for those. Right. Good questions. And with that, we are going to wrap this up. So I want to thank the panel here, Terry and our NVAC folks, Ken Martin, Erica, for your questions. I appreciate that. And more to come on this. There's a lot of work to be done here, and we look forward to it. Anything else from the panel? Good?
Tomorrow morning's breakout session for the volunteers, we're going to recapture a lot of this information that we shared with you this afternoon. We'll show you some of the forms. We will take a little bit deeper dive. I know by the time you think about this and digest it, you'll probably have some additional questions as to the wherefore, whys, and how comes, and we'll be more apt and prepared to have that conversation with you in a little bit more of a definitive fashion tomorrow morning. So we would encourage you to participate with us at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Great. Okay, thanks, folks. Appreciate that. Okay. Transitioning to something new. It's my pleasure now to introduce Scott Close. Scott's Client Solutions Advisor at CCC Information Systems. Scott's spent the last 16 years at CCC, and I'm excited about this. Scott is really good. He works directly with collision repairers to create new efficiencies in their businesses through automation and process improvement. He really is passionate about bringing new ideas and best practices to his customers that will position them for growth in this very rapidly changing environment. Scott, welcome to our Volunteer, Instructor, and Assessor Conference, and it's great to have you with us.
You can leave one up here. That's fine. You can leave this up there. I'm going to use it as a prop. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. How we doing? Who's ready for data? Slides of numbers. Wow. Okay. Well, good. Well, that's a start, right? So, show of hands. Who was up at 2:45 this morning? Yeah. Okay, and you can't blame it on happy hour running over, right? So hopefully they'll be able to capture this. So at 2:45 this morning, this went off. It was the coolest thing. So Elon Musk, that guy's crazy good at whatever he does, launched a SpaceX rocket this morning. So if you ever come back to Orlando, for those that live in Florida like I do, it's really neat. And literally I stepped out onto my balcony, rocket goes up. I tried to go back to sleep, but then I remembered, oh yeah, I present in front of 500 people today, so I'm ready. So let's do this. So we're going to talk about tech trends that are shaping your future. I don't like the term your future. I would rather use the term our future, right? We're partners in this. We're working together with the industry to educate on the next level. So a little bit about me, beside the introduction. I've been with CCC for 16 years. I cover coastal Georgia, South Georgia, North and Central Florida. So I am passionate about what I do, and one of the main functions, or my main function as a client solutions advisor, is I do trainings, right? So if a shop takes on estimating, if it takes on workflow, which is our management software, I go in and train them. And I also help them build their processes around our product. And inevitably, I get questioned, hey, how could I do this with your product? So a lot of times I'm in there saying, hey, you might want to try this out, or I've seen this done in other shops where this works out really great. So when I found out a couple weeks ago that I was actually going to be presenting today, I actually went out to my shops and I asked them, what concerns you? What keeps you up at night, other than rocket launches, by the way? What keeps you up at night about the industry? Overwhelmingly, the response was, I'm scared, I'm nervous, I'm afraid that I'm going to get left in the dust. Shops are beginning to understand that this industry is evolving, is changing rapidly. As you'll see in the slides down the road a little bit, you'll be able to see that we are on the cusp of something big, on the cusp of big changes. And it's up to us together to teach our shops this new frontier, if you will. So when I do presentations, I always like to start off with something personal, right? So I do look pretty big on that screen. I have a passion for baseball. I've been blessed to actually do some stuff with the New York Mets since 2010. And so, show of hands, who's passionate about baseball? You won't hurt my feelings if you don't raise your hand. Okay? Let me see a show of hands of people know that it's just a game and really just don't care about baseball. And that's okay too. It's all right. Okay. So baseball is evolving, right? So when I first met up, actually that's the hitting coach for the St. Lucie Mets, which is the minor league team for the New York Mets, one of them. And we talk about different ways to look at ball players. So just like 5 years ago, we were talking about, stopwatches, and we were talking about, batting averages and, ooh, can this guy drive the runner in from second? And now they look at something completely different. They look at these analytics that have totally changed the game. And they use these different tools to work with these hitters or these pitchers. So now they're looking at how hard a ball player can hit a baseball, what kind of launch angle comes off the bat, because the higher it goes up, the better chance it has of going over the fence. Or for a pitcher, how hard he can spin a curveball. Something crazy, right? Collision repair. So when you talk to the general public about a car accident, all they know is that car has to go from point A to point B and get them back from point B to point A, right? But when they get in a car accident, I'll just drop the car off. They'll replace a couple of panels. Maybe they'll paint it up pretty. They'll vacuum it for me, and I'll get it back, and I'll drive it down the road. They don't know all that's going on. And so for us as educators to educate the shops as well, to educate the public, because we are, again, on that cusp of change. Funny story. So I'm up there on the right, or on my right, your left. So it was my birthday Thursday, and I have a weekly call with my daughter and son because they live with mom. And so my daughter calls me up, "Happy birthday, Dad." "Hey, thanks, baby. That's really awesome." So we're talking, and I said, "Guess what? Guess who I met on Sunday?" And it's silent. And my daughter's like, "I don't know, Dad." I said, "Just take a guess, just take a guess." My daughter goes, "Oh my gosh, you sat next to Post Malone." Who's Post Malone? Note to self, Google Post Malone. I'm like, "No, I sat next to Dennis Miller." And she goes, "Who's that? Did you go to high school with him?" So as you can see, that kind of mirrors what we're going through right now. There's this big gap of general knowledge, and so I found that to be most humorous. So let's get into the data, right? So people are still buying cars. Last year, over the year 2017, we saw a 0.6% gain in car sales, right? However, this coming year, analysts are beginning to talk about trending down a little bit, right? Why is that? Well, there's numerous factors. You've got Lyft, Uber, ride sharing, right? Here in Orlando, they've spent a boatload of taxpayer money to upgrade Sunrail. So you're starting to see more mass transit options. And also fleets are newer, okay? But a couple of interesting points on this slide, 86% of all vehicle purchases last year were financed. And then that fact, the average vehicle sold in model year 2018 was $35,000. It was a record year for truck sales, and also SUV sales kicked up that number as well. So along those lines, as the cost of vehicles rise, so do repair costs, okay? In fact, what's really interesting, as you can see in the graphics up here, that $45,000 to $60,000 price tag, if you will, is starting to actually make a dent, okay? So in 2006, that was 0.3%. In 2018, it was 1.6%. It's a modest gain, small gain. But when you look at a vehicle that's $15,000, which is like, oh, okay, that's my price range, it went from 68% to 53%. So these vehicles are costing more, and they're becoming more expensive to repair as well. I love this slide, by the way. This is one of my first slides. I'll throw bells and whistles at you when I really dig a slide. So this talks about the repair costs from older vehicles versus newer vehicles, right? Think about an accordion, if you will. Stretch out an accordion. The two factors we looked at were collision and liability losses. We left comprehensive out because, let's face it, A driver can't help if a tree falls on them in a carport or in where they're parked. Car catches fire, I hope they can not do that. Or if a deer tap dances on their hood, right? So the fascinating part of this slide is the difference, the total cost of repairs from newest versus oldest grew from 56% to 74%. I'm going to park at this slide for a second because this is the first Scott Close near and dear slide. Vehicle composition, okay? So you've got 3 years. You've got model year 1995, which is at the bottom, model year 2000, model year 2016. Does anybody know what happened in 2007? And it's okay. I know we're getting close to happy hour and we're still processing lunch. So let's go back to 2007 for a second. President Bush, in his State of the Union address, calls upon the citizens of the United States, Congress, and energy consumers, car manufacturers, 20 in 10. He calls for the decrease of energy consumption by 20% in 10 years. Congress acts. Amazing, right? Congress acts in December and passes, let's see if I get this right, the Energy Independence and Security Act. Yes, I think I got it. And what that basically signs into law is now people, companies, sectors of business are now held accountable to help get to that 20% in 10 years. And it's reflected on this graphic. So if you look at model year 95 to 2000, car makers are kind of slowly getting to that high strength steel, getting away from regular steel. And then events happen. September 11th. We also have Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Rita. Gas production slows down, gas prices go up. Then President Bush drops it all into one nice bucket in 2007. So as a result, in model year 2016, we went from 42.4% regular steel to 33.2% regular steel. In fact, vehicles today on the model year 2018, they're comprised of over 30% high-strength steel. So this is changing, right? And think about, in our world, the repairs that have to take place. Welding, for example, the proper mixture, the proper gases, the proper wiring we have to think about. So now I'm going to step into my CSA role, and I left this chair up for a reason. So one of the things that I do when I train my shops on how to use the management software is we get to the production schedule. And the production schedule basically, as you guys have probably seen, kind of outlines the repair process. So I always start off by showing them how to filter, and then I talk about, okay, so explain your blueprint process to me. That's me. Because the majority of the answers I get are, what? Oh, we just let the text go at it. Really? Wow. Now, I'm not saying every shop's that way, but it's scary because we still see shops doing that. We still see them not using repair information, OEM repair information, right? They're just letting their techs go at it. So to me, one of the industry hot buttons, if you will, is getting our shops to not only blueprint, but blueprint effectively. All right, show of hands. Who has been here since 1996? Anybody? Anybody? Bueller? All right, we've got a few. Cool. Okay. Look at that Honda Accord in 96. Look at it in 2015. The parts on a front bumper have doubled. In fact, at CCC, we've seen an increase of parts on our estimates by the number 11.5. So these estimates are getting longer. More information's being put onto them. Look at that Mercedes up there. I mean, look at all the different types of materials that go into that Mercedes alone. How about that Audi up there when we talk about doing a four-wheel alignment? Are we doing it properly? Do we know we have to go ahead and the right cruise camera and the left cruise camera have to be calibrated on a four-wheel alignment? This is where y'all come in. This is where now the light bulbs start coming off. Like, yeah, we really, okay, Scott's pulling some good data out for us here. This is a great statistic too. AEB, just so we can go ahead and get that autonomous emergency braking system, right? So in the year 2017, Toyota, model year 2017, 53% of their vehicles were equipped with AEB. Honda's 30%, GM's about 20%. That's model year 2017. Model year 2018, look at Toyota. Jumps to 90% in 12 months. 12 months, okay? Honda increases nicely, GM kind of increases, right? So that equates to now 52% of all the vehicles model year 2018 that were produced now have some sort of AEB. In 2017, it was around 20%. Can you imagine if your employer went to you and said, hey, I'm going to give you a 30% raise? Same with our shops. Hey, guess what? 30% more vehicles are on the road today with AEB. What do I do? Right? Something near and dear to my heart as well. So let me ask a question. Savannah, Georgia, are we represented here today? No? Oh, no. Okay. Savannah, Georgia. So I talked to the shop. This was in February 2015. I remember I walk in the door and I'm like, hey, so-and-so, what are you doing for pre and post scan? And thinking back to the shops that I'd actually talked to before, they're like, what are you talking about? He whips out a manila folder with all the manufacturer's statements with respect to pre and post scan. I'm like, oh man, this guy's on the nines, right? That was just in 2015. 2016, the discussion starts. 2017, it grows. And in 2018, current year and newest model vehicles, almost 56% had some sort of term with calibration, right? So we talk about scan, health, maybe even a Aztec on there, what have you. So 40% of all estimates, right, had some sort of fee on there that averaged $76. So we're starting to move, we've pretty much crossed that bridge. We're starting to move in the right direction. And you can see, again, this rapid growth with respect to certain items. To me, this is the next frontier, right? So I'm a big Star Trek, Star Wars geek, so I will throw a reference in there today, I promise. But to me, this is the new frontier for us because as you can see on the graphic, we're not capturing a lot of information. We're not even capturing the term calibration. In fact, 1% of all of our estimates that we looked at in Q1 2018 had the term calibration on it. I will throw a disclaimer up there. If you see the two examples up there, CCC does not have spell check. So, but you can see that when shops put calibration on their estimates, they're writing a book. They have to sit there and say, okay, da, 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 da. And the amazing thing is look at how it affects the price. So we've got a Nissan Rogue up there that has a $3,100 calibration charge. It's a $5,700 estimate. Okay? And then down below, the Toyota Prius, a $3,400 calibration jumps that up to $9,400. Okay? So the future repair costs. So we're going to talk a little bit more about calibration here. 0.2% of non-comprehensive estimates contain the term calibration on it from the Q4 2017 to Q3 2018, right? The leaders are Asian vehicles, trucks, model year, right? 0 to 3. All right, let's see if I can pull this Star Trek off. So in Star Trek, right? William Shatner, Captain Kirk, who's really cool. I mean, when I was a kid, I idolized that guy. I tried to grease my hair back, it didn't work. But he always says, warp speed, Scotty. And Scotty be like, I don't think she can handle it, sir. Now, most people think that's Jar Jar Binks from Star Wars, so I probably butchered that pretty bad. But this is a neat little spaghetti model. So what this does is shows exactly what we are about to embark on as an industry. So the smaller number is calendar year 1995, right? It goes all the way to calendar year 2050. Folks, we're in the middle of that graph. It's about ready to take off. It's about ready to explode with all these new technologies. What about reported accidents, right? We're starting to see a little bit of data come back from that. As you can see up there, angular crashes with vehicles moving are decreasing, right? Rear ends are increasing. So again, I consider it more accordion, right? So as these technologies come to market, it kind of moves in different directions. So right now, the flavor of the month is a certain type of ADAS, so like crash warning systems, or in the next slide, AEB, which is out there as well. Is it working? Well, that first column shows it does. FCW alone, we have a decrease in about 18%, right? AEB is really working by those numbers. But you got some funky data up there. You actually have pluses on there. So the thought is as these technologies come to market, as our manufacturers start to digest this data, they'll start to bring more avoidance systems to the consumer, to the customer. And this graph as well kind of just talks about crash types are changing, right? So we are looking at from front impacts to other collisions. And again, as those technologies change and straighten themselves out a little bit, you'll start to see that move as well. The future. So let's talk about the future a little bit with claims. So we discussed the market slowing down, right? We talked about Lyft, Uber, ride sharing. We talked about the increase in public transportation. So CCC actually estimates a reduction in claims that tops out at about 30% way down the road, right? And it's really interesting to talk to my shop. So last week I was in South Georgia and I was talking to one of my shops there, and we were talking about volume of repairs and all this, and he was kind of scratching his head. He's like, I'm not taking in as many cars, but cars are here longer, right? So these cars are, again, the complexity of these vehicles and cycle time. How is that going to affect cycle time? So the claim numbers might fall, but the complexity of repairs increases. Some other factors that will affect claims as well. So all these laws that are getting passed with no texting and driving, put your phone down. It's not even supposed to be in your hand in the state of Florida. That actually, they can pull you over for that. Again, slowing new vehicle sales. People that work from home when they're not on the road, that's me. So you're starting to see these more and more, these people working from their home offices, and an aging population. So think about it, the population of the United States is getting older, so they're not having to commute to work anymore. They're not having to commute back from a night out with friends, right? So that claim frequency will continue to slow. So the road ahead, what are we talking here? We'll still see cars sell, right? We'll still see that number level, right? So there's not so much worry on that aspect, okay? Technology points to longer term but fewer expensive repairs as I just alluded to in my shop in South Georgia. Fuel economy standards will continue to grow, and shops will have to adapt to that, have to learn to repair those types of vehicles. ADAS will continue to grow and be more complex, right? This is all happening. As we talked about that slide with the big spaghetti curve in it, it's happening rapidly. It's happening today. It's happening tomorrow, okay? Vehicle repair costs will grow annually 3 to 4%. As the market absorbs more newer vehicles, right? Trade-ins from leases, model year vehicles, that's making this market grow with respect to complexity of vehicles, making it more difficult for shops to stay on top of this, if you will. Another thing that will contribute to is inflation of part costs and labor too. So part costs, well, we have a tariff out there hanging out, right? That's gonna have some effect. I heard a real interesting statistic. This was a few years ago. The average age of the technician in 3 years grew by 5 years. Think about that for a second. The average technician's age grew 5 years in a 3-year time span. So where is the next generation, and how are we going to train these people? How are we going to get them to understand the complexities of mechanical, of electrical repair? And estimates now will also include more scans, more calibrations, right? As we saw from that slide before, it made that cost jump up dramatically. How does it affect y'all? Well, I need you. I honestly need everyone in this room. Shops need you, everybody in this room. I can vouch for it. I'm out there 4 days a week, office day on a Friday. I'm out there 4 days a week in the shops, and they are terrified. They don't know what the next big repair is, the next big thing. And that's where we need you guys to help, right? Focus on those electronic, those mechanical problems. And if I haven't emphasized it enough, as the industry continues to grow, we need you guys more than ever. Guys and gals, I should be all inclusive. So we, right? So as I speak up here, and I've rehearsed this a million times, I went a little quicker than what I thought. So I'm gonna end up on this slide right here. If you haven't taken any information down, if you haven't snapped one photo of a slide, grab this. www.cccis.com/crash course 2019. This is a phenomenal report. We put it out once a year. It's very informative. It shows where the industry went in 2018 and where it's going in 2019. On March 12th, it becomes available. I put it on my laptop, I put it on my tablet, I put it on my phone. I share it out with my shops because it's getting to that point where shops now need to think about, instead of just repairing cars, we need to think more about just body repair. We need to think about mechanical. We need the big picture. And this helps guide them down the road to where the next big thing is. I love information. That's why I work with CCC Information Services. You can get it actually on a monthly video and an article as well. So there's another thing up there, cccis.com/category/trends. This is fantastic stuff. I don't know if anyone's met Susanna Gotch in the audience here. She's fantastic. I actually subbed for her today, so big shoes to fill. But she puts these out monthly. In fact, what was really interesting, I actually helped in Wilmington, North Carolina after the hurricanes, and that next month, she put out a trend report on how the hurricane had impacted the auto industry. So it's very timely information. It's great information to share with your shops. And so just wrapping it up, thank you again for allowing me to present to y'all today. I feel like I'm part of your team. The presentations that were in front of me were fantastic. Some great information. This is actionable items that you guys can take forward to your shops. And I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Sorry, that was a little quick.
That's awesome. No, it was great.
Want this back? Do you want me to answer any questions? Or?
Mike? There's Mike. Hey, does anybody have any questions for Scott? And I asked this because, John and I sat here in the front row talking about the data here that we saw, talking about our charge. I started this morning by saying, ICAR, when I was aware of ICAR for the first time in the mid-1980s, recognizing that ICAR was brought together because of this, what we just saw, right? The technology that's going into new vehicles, the things that we kind of know are coming, and I'm not sure we're reacting fast enough to what's coming or being proactive, getting there. But I think that's an ICAR charge, and I believe that we need to get ahead of that. We do know it's coming, and we have folks like CCC and Scott here to let us know based on what they see coming and having data to prove that it's coming. So I bring that up for that reason. Any questions for Scott?
Going once.
There's some good stuff there.
All right, very good.
Scott, thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks again. I appreciate it. Thanks all. Thank you.
Thanks. I am going to wrap things up, folks. We had hoped to have more Q&A, and I apologize for that, for the technical issues that we had. We have to get out of here so the folks can break all this down and get ready for our banquet tonight. Couple of things. Like I said, we have a lot of change coming down. We talked about a lot of change. Hopefully, we informed you guys of what we're working on and what April is going to look like with that change. Hopefully, it was some positive information for you. We had hoped that we had communicated a lot of this stuff to the industry in the past, probably 6 months or so. We had hoped that was the case. In talking to some folks out there, I know some of this was brand new to you. And to the question that was brought up, what do we plan to do to communicate to this industry? I promise we'll get that communication out. If you are a shop, if you are a gold class shop, even some of the Road to Golders that have expired, we will call you and explain those changes to you. So that is coming. Webinars, look for those webinars coming, talking about PDP 2.0. Those are on their way. They're being built as we speak. And those are coming in the next couple of weeks. We look forward to that. We're just about out of here. So a couple of things, some housekeeping things. Before I get to that, I want to thank everybody again. Volunteers, instructors, assessors, our sustaining partners, our sponsors, our customers, everybody in this room. And there are more people in here than I thought there would be on a Saturday that's pretty nice out. The two people that missed out on that helmet are going to be sorry, but that's part of the deal, right? So as I look at who is here, I was serious when I said, you make us better. We can't do this without you. And I know we say that a lot, but we say it because it's a fact. So you guys really make us better. The industry, listen to Scott, the industry looks to ICAR for what we do for the industry. We're owned by the industry. They expect it. So we need to do it. And there's a lot of change coming down the pike. I can't tell you that we're going to stop changing. I will tell you that we'll communicate better so that you'll understand what we're doing and can be part of it. I don't think we do enough of that. And our charge is to do that.